All right, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday. We're gonna have some fun. It's always a good time here on Vibe Rant. We got a great crowd already popping in the chat. I see Old World Micmac. I don't think that dude misses a show. Love you, dude. Thank you. Kabir, Lateral, and J Lo in the house. J Lo's here. You know it's gonna be good when we see J Lo. I see Kelly on Kayleigh's side and Miri, artist here. Good to see you. Love all the people that I'm watching pile in, and we're gonna have a good time tonight. As is tradition with Vibe Rant, I have brought in a an expert co-host to help me out as we're talking to Dominique Cordivari tonight, and she has been on the show about this time last year. Although it was Interverse, not Vibe Rant, so the vibe's different tonight. A little more laid back, a little more casual, maybe some Q&A gonna happen. But we're gonna be talking about medical astrology, how you can maybe beat things before they happen or be aware of some of the tendencies that your body might go through at certain times, certain transits. It's not necessarily my expertise, but Kayleigh knows a lot about astrology, so she'll ask the right questions on our behalf. And you guys in the chat, just feel free to throw stuff out there. But you can find Dominique at epiastrology.com. That's going to be linked in the show notes. Dominique, good to see you again. How you doing?
Great to see you, Chance. Thanks for having me on again. We had such a fun time last time, and I just am so excited to dive in tonight.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention after our show last year, actually had some mutual clients of ours. People came to me for tunings, or they have been coming to me for tunings, and they mentioned going to you for a reading and finding it really helpful. So I love how the skill sets are synergistic like that. But what's new? What have you been up to for the past 12 months?
Been really working on myself a lot, to be honest. I've been painting more, and then, of course, just throwing more into the business, always learning, teaching myself, diving into some books, and a lot of it's experience, too. So always observing the stars and getting my own insights and 2 cents and just reapplying it back into my work.
That's how you do it. Kayleigh, welcome. Thanks for taking on Gabe's role tonight as my partner co-host. And it's good to see you. You had a great live stream last night, and I'm glad that you're getting back into the world of YouTubing, and congrats on getting a new computer all around. Everything's awesome.
Yeah, excited to be back. And I really feel like this is a good time to just come back out of the shadows. So I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I have so many questions for you, girl. We're gonna have a discussion. It's gonna be
I'm so excited.
You're always kind of in the shadows, though, Kayleigh. If not like literally, then spiritually. Team night.
I think I'm okay with that.
Yes, Kayleigh of the dark side.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay, well, all right. You just fire away. Let's start. Let's ask some questions. Let's get into it.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Oh man, do we go off the deep end right away, or do we like kind of bring people in? For those that didn't watch your episode with Chance, as far as medical astrology goes, how did you start with that? Or what school of astrology kind of was your introduction, and then you're like, whoa, medical astrology is where it's at?
Yeah, so it kind of started with like a little bit of relationship astrology, because just kind of like diving into composite charts and getting a general idea of like, okay, how does my energy interact with your energy? And then I just started watching Santos. And like once you watch Santos, it's like, all right, you just dive right into medical astrology. So I was honestly fascinated by it because I did health coaching and had a separate business for that years before this. And once I started to see the connections, it's kind of like I couldn't shut it off, you know? So, went from thinking astrology was evil for religious reasons to having like a little shift in my beliefs and seeing how real this all is.
That's a wild shift to go through.
But really, all religion is based on astrology, so you're actually more religious.
That's the thing, and
in a good way.
Connections, you just can't even unsee it.
Yeah, and isn't that funny? Like, I also came from a really religious background where this is definitely of the devil. Okay, so I think everybody in the audience wants to know what are your big three? What's your ascendant, sun, moon? We gotta get the basics over with first, you know?
Yeah. I'm actually gonna give you 2 answers to that question. So it's Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Taurus. But I also believe in conception date astrology, so that would make me a Pisces, Aquarius, and most likely Scorpio rising.
Hey, I was just talking with Gabe about conception astrology yesterday. So that's a fun synchronicity.
Wow.
I can't get with it
Like,
because it would make me a Cancer, and there's just no way. I don't have those kind of feelings.
I don't know. Maybe I could see it a little bit. Kayleigh,
No,
what's
ask my wife. I have like my emotions are just even,
yeah.
chill.
Huh.
I kid
to
though. I know there's something to conception. Obviously, that's like it's the most magical, mystical thing around. But I kid. But I'm definitely not a Cancer, and I'm not a Pisces. Sidereal people. I am the
Yeah.
fire.
Sidereal, I'm like, with. I mean, I know it's definitely like it plays in somehow, but I see the Sagittarius and the Pisces like crazy because I have like that intense fire, but I'm also a crybaby. So it's like both are kind of there.
so funny. And for the record, I'm a triple Earth, Capricorn, Taurus.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew though. I feel like honestly, I have like this filter now, and I guess it's natural with my job. Like I'll analyze people through their astrology as I'm talking to them, and I feel like I'm like talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not overwhelming them because it's like just in second nature to me now.
That's so funny. Yeah, I used to do that a lot with people, and then I realized that I needed to tone it down for their sake and for my brain's sake as well. So I'm like, okay, I keep it internal, or I open up a separate chat, and then that happens in the
And
background. It's like another tab running back here. Yeah.
I would ask people their
It's
birthday
funny.
before doing tunings for them, but I don't want it to like color my opinion going in. I want to be neutral, but I kid you not, like I guess people's sun sign by the end of a session all the time.
wow.
It's totally there.
Yeah, it's so linked in, and I mean, it's not even just the sun too. Like that's huge, but I'm finding moon signs is like insanely relevant for everything I do because that's like their inner nature, you know, and it's just I see it a lot.
So you got into medical astrology through health coaching, huh?
Yeah.
And
Initially,
Santos Bonacci, that's a trip. I
yeah.
used to be into some Santos too. It's not that palatable anymore, but you started me on the right path, and now I'm kind of just like doing that type of research on my own. I don't need the guy to tell me what it means.
It's
It's
funny.
what me and Dylan do on Inner World.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say like it's funny you say that because like I barely like I know I have this stack of books here, but I barely touch it anymore. Like a lot of it is just from my own head at this point. You know, like there's still there as references and other people are there, but I feel like the more I've gotten in touch, like Source just kind of gives me the downloads.
Got to have stacks of
Badass.
books.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar? I know we talked about it last time. Kayleigh, are you familiar with the cell salts? Have you ever like dove into that?
So familiar, yes, but not so familiar that I am taking the ones that I need.
Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate a little bit on that? Is that a big part of your practice? So, okay, hold on, back it up. When you sit down for a consultation with someone, what are some of the main points that you end up looking at and bringing out during the reading, just general?
That's a great question. Normally what I'll do like initially is just pull up their birth chart and get an overview and kind of get an idea like, okay, what's your symptoms? Like, what are you dealing with? Second, what is your chart kind of like give me an idea of? And then third, sometimes I'll get like a picture of their face, like for facial analysis, and we'll look at that. So it depends, but the cell salts are definitely a big part. But it's not just through taking them. Sometimes you can offset deficiencies simply by saying like, okay, use less of this energy, try to handle this better in your life. Very simple. So
That's
What's
really
that funny
cool.
sound?
I don't know.
I bet it's like a dog or something. Okay, so Matt Workman in the chat. We got our first listener question. Anyone have recommendations for how to learn astrology basics? I just don't get it. Seems like there's something to it, but I don't know why. Maybe I'm too left-brained. Well, the basics would be learn the zodiac, and that you only have to remember 12 things, and I don't know, that'd be the basics, right? It starts to get more confusing when you throw in the houses and all that, but if you at least have that foundation, those archetypes are really helpful for synchromysticism.
this is definitely the book I'd recommend if you want to dive into esoterics and astrology in general. Can you see it? The Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation by Carrie and Perry. I know it's a little intense, but it gives you everything from an esoteric standpoint as well as like the science of it, while also like touching on the cell salts, kind of like an all-in-one.
It's a great recommendation. I think, honestly, I think being left-brained about it is not necessarily a bad thing, because the intuition of how it all goes together will come with the foundation and the basics. So I'm going to give you the most Capricorn answer possible. Learn the foundation and the basics and the left brain side of things first, and the rest of the connections will start to flow from there. So yeah, try not to get too overwhelmed by looking at multiple schools at a time too. That's kind of, I did that. It was a mistake. Yeah, I think that's honestly, that's where you got to go. Start with that.
Yeah, and just keep exposing yourself to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like when it
You'll
comes to
absorb.
recall, the secret of recall is the more things that you learn that connect to things you've learned, the more easy it is to remember things you've learned. So at the beginning, and it feels like overwhelm, you have to just keep exposing yourself to the information, and it's like planting seeds. But that's how memory works, in my opinion. It's like chains of linkages. So when you try to structure your investigation around correspondences, that can help you eventually get to a point where all of a sudden you feel like you know a lot, or that you can access a lot. So you just pull the thread once you have those, or pull the chain once you have the links in it, and stuff will just keep coming through your flow state.
I can definitely agree with that, because initially with astrology, I did have to take more of that left-brained approach, and it's become so much more right-brained over time.
Totally. I think I had a lot of really big aha moments as well. Once I took it back down to basics and I took out a bunch of the extra stuff that was in there that was introduced through modern astrology, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with like having all of the asteroids and all of the midpoints and stuff. It's really cool. But taking it right down to the bare bones and being like, okay, what the fuck is Jupiter? And just just focus on Jupiter for a little bit and follow the transits of Jupiter for a little bit and just really focus and dial in on one at a time. I think that's really, really big and important as well.
No, definitely. And especially when it comes to medical astrology, because there's literally so many different links that you're managing at once. It's like, okay, this planet does this sign does this house, this aspect. I mean, there's so much all at once.
Totally. So if someone wanted to improve their health in an overall general well-being, would you suggest that they focus on their moon first, or would you say focus on the sixth house or the ascendant, or what would be? Because my brain's like, I could go so many ways with this.
Oh, that's an amazing question, Kayleigh. Honestly, like it depends on their specific goals. If they're looking for overall health and wellness, definitely the ascendant, because that's the physical body. Whereas if it's more like stuff that, like say anxiety, because that's something I've dealt with, that's going to be rooted in the moon sign 100%. Like that can even come just alone from a deficiency in the moon or south node salts. So that definitely for that. But the sun is always important to keep in mind because it's your vital force. So like that keeps you going. That keeps you feeling alive. So you always want to take care of that as well. So really, like I like to do a balanced approach.
I like that. It's a great answer.
And what did you say about the cell salts for the moon? What was that?
Yeah, so if somebody is dealing with like anxiety or panic attacks or depression, sometimes it's literally just a deficiency in your moon salt or your south node salt. I would also recommend looking at Saturn for that. And in general, potassium phosphate, like the cell salt, like if you deal with the type of anxiety that's like, oh my gosh, like extreme, like panic attacks, potassium phosphate will annihilate that.
Okay, so and the cell salts, I don't know if we fully fleshed it out, but there's 12 of them. They're associated to the zodiac signs, and part of medical astrology is figuring out which ones you might be deficient in. And when we're talking about the cell salts, it's like these essences, biological material can be purified down to. So
Yeah.
it's like alchemical. Can you expand on like how these salts are derived, what they are?
No, absolutely. And I want to use this book as a reference here because I'm a visual learner myself. So each of these zodiacal energies, like over here, let's say we're starting with Aries, that's linked to potassium phosphate. it's literally like the energy, I like to think of it, the energy of Aries materialized. So it's this energy that represents, okay, this is what Aries needs. This is kind of like what Aries deals with, you know, then we are linked to like the brain and stuff like that, cerebrospinal fluid and all that. And when we're dealing with this Aries salt, it will go ahead and go into the brain and fix the things that might be deficient if someone is like burning through their Aries energy. So I'll give an example, right? Say somebody has a relationship with somebody and the moon of the relationship is Aries. So they're like in that relationship a lot. They're like heavily burning through that salt. I might read their facial chart analysis and be like, oh my gosh, where are you burning through your Aries energy from? You don't even have that much of it in your birth chart. It could just be from their relationships. So getting back to the main point, these are the 12 inorganic mineral substances of the human body.
For the relationship charts, do you use Davidson or a composite chart?
Ooh, very controversial. I use composite. Not to say I never look at Davidson, but I like the composites.
Now for the non-astrologer professionals, what's the difference between what you're talking about? What is this?
I feel like composite is not actually what they would call literal. It's based on midpoints, whereas they say the Davidson is actually like something in real time. But for whatever reason, I find the composite to be way more accurate. What do you think, Kayleigh?
Let's back that up even further. Like, what's a relationship chart? Why are we doing this? I want to give people, because there's some people asking about intro level knowledge, and maybe not everyone's even aware that you can use astrology for this wide of a variety of applications, you know?
No, absolutely. For me, I like to use it to see, like, okay, say a client comes to me and they're like, this is someone I started seeing and I can't figure out why we butt heads on like such and such. It kind of gives you an idea of like, all right, this might be why, this is where you're struggling. It's like your energies combined together.
So essentially you take the birth data of person A and the birth data of person B, and you combine them to create one chart. So the difference between the composite and the Davidson chart, the composite is literally like if you have Sun in Taurus and they have Sun in Leo, the composite chart will be the exact midpoint between those two. That's where the sun of the chart is. Whereas the Davidson, what they do is they take, okay, this is the location and the time and the date that this person was born. This is where this person was born, and they find the middle time and the middle location. And that's what the Davidson chart is based off of. So it's pretty cool.
I think I had you do that for me when I started wooing my wife before we were an item.
I've learned so much since then. That'd be fun to look at again.
Well, you gave us like a pretty good forecast. You were on the money.
I was like, calm down, Chance. It'll happen. And
Look at us now. Look at us now. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up. I mean, at this point, it's been on streams before, so there's nothing to hide. But I'm gonna bring up my chart. Tell me about the moon here, and what this might reflect for like in medical astrology, just focusing on the moon.
Okay, so you have moon in Libra. You have oppositions and squares going on. I feel like automatically off the bat, the only thing that I could see potentially being rough with your moon is stuff linked to Saturn and Uranus. Sorry, no, that's Neptune in that corner. Saturn and Neptune. So normally if I see tough aspects, I'll go right to this book. Like some of it comes from my head, but this really has excellent interpretations.
And what's this book?
This is a handbook of medical astrology by Jane Ritter Patrick. So like based on those aspects, like you might, let's see. Can I read one?
Please, yeah.
Okay,
I want to know.
Let's do the moon Saturn. Like Sun Saturn, moon Saturn afflictions can show up as hereditary diseases, but the most common pathology is neurosis and depression owing to the fear and abnormal sensitivity that Saturn produces when aspecting the moon. It gives a slowed and inhibited emotional response, as well as restrictive and controlling eating behaviors, which can provide fertile ground for various illnesses. May be associated with chronic disturbances in the water balance, defects of the mucous membranes, and bladder diseases, which is interesting because you're like, I'm not a Cancer, but yet this aspect could have something to do with why your emotions are more settled.
So did you say something about a bladder stuff? Because sometimes I have like a pretty short bladder fuse.
Yeah, that
okay, so the sixth house in astrology is like health related, right?
Yes, it deals with your health routines and habits specifically.
So if my moon is there, and then there's a square to Saturn, you're saying?
So your moon's in the third, but Saturn and Neptune are in the sixth. So them being in the sixth could impact your moon. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I don't always have the easiest time with routines in terms of health.
Well, that's because you have Neptune and Saturn together, and Neptune is all about no boundaries, and Saturn likes boundaries. So it's like you're kind of merging those energies, and it feels maybe off a little.
Okay, yeah, explains the Enneagram 7 type of personality trait of the shadow of gluttony. Sometimes I don't have a limit on snacks. That's the thing.
Oh, I gotta put in the chat here the next book's name. Handbook.
So just while you're typing up real quick, just for those that are really new and really want to get into the basics of astrology, we touched just very briefly on like, oh, the ascendant is your body. Would you care to explain why the ascendant represents your body and what that is? So Chance, if you bring your chart back up, we can have a visual to speak about it if you'd like.
Yeah, so here we're dealing with a Leo rising, and basically like it's what you're presenting into the world. The ascendant is the sign that was on the horizon at the time of your incarnation into the physical plane. So it naturally represents how you're showing up, who you are, who you're showing up as. So that correlates to just you in general. And as much as, in the spiritual community, we say you are not the body, to a certain extent you are, because the body is just the materialized version of what you are astrologically.
Heck yeah. I like to also explain it as it is the point where spirit, sky meets earth, the body, you. That is the first house.
That gave me chills. I love that.
Ooh. Hi, I'm a Capricorn rising.
Love
So
that.
yeah, that's very like between heaven and earth, humans as that bridge between the 2 points. That's cool. Never thought about the ascendant that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I like
very.
that.
So if Leo is my body, then is that why I'm so hot?
Actually, on a literal level, that could be true because the fire signs run very warm.
Yeah, I'm like super hot. I'm attractive, but also I can warm up my hands with my mind.
Wow. And you also have the Aries sun, so it's a double whammy.
Yeah, but
Tilted Aries sun.
so what would this talk like if your ascendant represents your body, is there ways of being able to look at your ascendant in your chart and decide things about how your body might react to something or manifest something?
Yeah, absolutely, especially because the ascendant kind of is how you react in general. Like, yes, the moon in a more emotional way, but the ascendant is just like your automatic reaction to the world. So, from a Leo standpoint, I mean, you're going to very much live from your heart because Leo rules the heart. Do you find that to be relevant?
Everyone seems to think that about me.
Yeah, very passionate and dedicated.
Chance's number one saying is, oh man. First of all, top hopping all the way. Chance top hops. But also, if it
That
isn't
means that I
hell
don't go
yet,
into the
hell
valley of
no.
sadness. It means that I just stay up at the peak experience of life and I don't bother going down into the valley. I just jump from mountaintop to mountaintop. Kayleigh doesn't, jive with that. She likes to go down to the valley a little bit.
Well, that's because you're all masculine signs mostly, and she's all feminine.
Yeah, it's cool. You do you. People can go in the valley. I just like it up at the top. Okay, so besides that, the heart aspect of Leo, would that be referring to things that might go on with the heart, or would that require, or for inferring that, would there need to be some kind of like planetary stuff going on in the first house too?
It could be either or, the extent to which your ascendant is going to play a role in things depends on the aspects that are hitting it, but it's always going to play a role in general just because that's how you're showing up. So, like, it's kind of on both a spiritual and a physical way, just as everything in this universe is, just because like if something affects you on the physical heart level, or excuse me, on the spiritual heart level, it can automatically start to hit you in the physical. And I even think the physical can affect the spiritual, even though it's not talked about as much. So either or really, and I think it all interplays together very much.
Yeah, I want some more examples out of this chart as an example. I know it puts everybody on the spot, but you guys can work together here.
No, absolutely. Are you saying like for your ascendant specifically, like how we could see it come in?
Yeah, just medical astrology me.
Okay, so
However you wish. And then I'll try to
sounds
like
good.
tease out the way that people can make this their own too.
Okay, perfect. So specifically with your ascendant, I'm not seeing any planets in the first house. I'm also not seeing any aspects hitting this. Could it be different with a different version of the chart? More asteroids, more aspect orbs? Yeah, definitely. But right here, I'm not seeing anything super crazy with it. What I would look at specifically, like initially diving into this, is what cell salts are you probably deficient in? I would guess automatically Aries and Libra if you were to have any deficiencies, just because the sun is here in Aries and then automatically opposite it is your moon in Libra. A lot of times people could be deficient in their opposite sign anyways, but because your moon is here, I would definitely hit that. Were you
So
born?
people born on a full moon should think about the cell salts associated with their sun and moon. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely, but I would also recommend that everyone would take their sun and opposite if they're taking cell salts, just because it's two sides of the same coin. And it's like if you're deficient in one, you might be deficient in the other. Not to mention, even sometimes when I'm reading somebody's face, I'll actually see their opposite sign more deficient than their sun. So I think it's important to hit on both.
And so with Libra, what's that going to rule in the body? You know, because one thing about astrology for people to comprehend is that the 12 signs correspond to different parts of the body. We alluded to Leo being the heart. So where's Libra hit in you guys' opinion?
The kidneys, the balance organs, definitely. And I think to a certain extent, the bladder, I feel like I read mixed stuff on that. Some people will say that's Scorpio. I kind of feel like it's more Libra, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'll be like come to Jesus moment, public confession. I of all the organs of my body, I'm probably the hardest on my kidneys because I
Okay.
really like to be jacked up on caffeine too much of the time, and I maybe don't drink enough water relative to how much like tea or coffee I drink or other things like lemonade or what have you. So, you know, is that something that you would think is descriptive of this opposition of where my moon's at?
100%, just because we have Neptune and Saturn squaring it, as we mentioned earlier. And Neptune is kind of like, you don't really have the best boundaries with stuff. So there could be this like, okay, I'm not really focusing so much on the discipline. Maybe I'm just going to like kind of do what I feel like doing. Neptune also rules addictions. So possibly a caffeine addiction affecting the bladder, going with that square here. So if I were seeing you as a client, I would definitely tell you to focus on kidney support and mainly just take sodium phosphate for your moon sign.
Okay, so knowing this like tendency in the chart, and then see noticing it in my lifestyle, um, how does this help me change it? Does the cell salt actually help with like besides just the health side of things,
Yeah.
habits and things like that? I mean, does is there any kind of like consciousness effect to the cell salts in your opinion?
Yeah, the cell salts will definitely affect you on all planes. I feel like they affect mood quite a bit. Like if you're deficient in your moon one, like I mentioned earlier, you will definitely see a difference there. And of course, like there's different things we deal with for each. Like with the Libra one, if you don't have that balance in your body, let's take like acidity and alkalinity, you can start to have more of an acidic personality, like kind of get annoyed easily or be irritable or stuff like that. So in that way, the cell salts can help. But when you talked about routine and whatnot, in the sixth house, being balanced biochemically is going to help you all around because it's an easier flow of spirit through your body. But that's also where, okay, like let me mentally program my mind as well and set some good habits to have better discipline.
Okay, cool. Kayleigh, you got any questions for what we're talking about? Maybe wiser questions than I've been asking?
You've been asking great questions, Chance. They're practical questions, which are needed. Um, I have like a technical craft question for you.
Okay.
So, looking at the ascendant, the sun and the moon, lovely, but also Saturn aspects. how much weight do you put into the ruler of the ascendant, where that's placed in the chart, and if it has some like gnarly aspects on it?
That's an amazing question, and I'm really glad you asked. I think it's very relevant. I feel like the chart ruler is so like underrated in general. It literally speaks to your motivation in life, sometimes even more than your sun and moon. It's like what's actually important to me. Why am I called to be here? What like sets me alive? So if we're dealing with somebody's chart, I can't say that I look at the chart ruler a ton, but being the importance of it, you kind of sparked that idea in me. I should start looking at it more from a medical point as well, because I can imagine it being super important. I do tend to look at the dominant planets though, and always try to tie that in.
Fair enough. And I mean, with chance, it's easy. It's like, okay, your ruler is the sun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a great point you brought up. So when he asked, like with the Leo, like where is that coming in?
And I got the hot hands. I just pulled this off the deck.
Oh,
The sun
love
card.
that.
I knew I would because it's called hot hands. Kayleigh's seen it before. I have that. I just grabbed the deck and went.
Chance is magical. It's true.
Yeah, I can say when I got my reading from Chance, so spot on. Insane intuition.
Did we do a reading? Did we do cards?
Tuning I meant.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sorry, I completely tripped that up. No, like literally the stuff you were telling me was out of this world and spot on.
Matt wants to ask about if there's any downsides to just taking all the cell salts,
Oh,
like the 12 and 1 that's out there.
I've wondered about this a lot. I think it can't hurt to take the 12 and 1 because it's just like boosting everything. But the way that intuitively I think about it, you're not actually targeting like the area where you're deficient. Like if we think of it like, okay, again, referencing this book, you have like all these pieces of the pie, right? And say this one's lower than like all the rest. If you're adding to all of them, this one's still going to be a little more deficient. So I do think it's good to get specific recommendations. But if you don't have them, then sure, definitely take the 12 and 1.
I think that's a really good question.
Definitely.
And just back it up just a half a step here. Just for the newbies in the chat, since there were a couple, the ascendant ruler would be the planet that is the ruler of the first house. So in Chance's case, as a Leo rising, sun is his ruler. In my case, Capricorn, Saturn rules Capricorn. That's my chart ruler. So
yeah, Taurus is mine. So Venus, exactly.
Next question for you. When looking at rulerships, do you use the traditional rulers or do you use the outer planets as rulers of signs?
I use both because I think they both have a role. How about you when you read charts?
When it comes to rulership, I'll stick to the traditional, but I keep the outer planets in the chart because they are very loud and potent archetypes. So
yeah.
I
mean, you can feel Pluto from miles away. Same with Uranus. I mean, all of them really. It's crazy.
Yeah. Just talk to anybody that has like a Uranus transit over their sun or whatever, and they'll have some stories for you for sure.
I've had Uranus on my ascendant for a while, and it naturally conjuncts my moon. So, like, very chaotic sometimes. Yeah. And I always have to actively ground.
So when okay, we're talking about transits now. This is where I have disconnect with my use of astrology. Like I'm pretty familiar with my natal chart, and that's great. But I know that the real gravy is in like the transits of the day or of the year. And what kind of like software, technology, or technique can somebody use to have a peek at their transits and then, or maybe like understand them better on the regular? I
typically will just go to either astro-charts.com, I like that one, or Horoscope AstroSeek. You can also do just, what was the one that you used, astro.com or something? I don't use that one a lot, but that's another good one. And really just seeing what the prominent transits are. And if you aren't, super versed, you can always just type it in, like transit Saturn square sun, and they'll give you like a description.
If you wanted to do it an old school way, because someone asked in the chat, like, can you do this without software? You can totally pull up an ephemeris and learn it the old school way too. If you want to be like super traditional about it. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Christian in the chat says that today is his birthday.
Oh,
and wants to know if there's any gravy about today. He's 44 years young.
Wow. Let's real quick check the current moon sign. Give me 1 second.
I will say, congrats on being on this cusp. That's an interesting place to be. The Leo Virgo cusp. Is today Leo still, or is it Virgo yet?
I want to say that it's still Leo, but I might embarrass myself. Let's check.
It is still Leo.
Okay.
Sweet. All right, you're on
Not
the right
very
side
long,
of this thing, Christian. So good job.
Yeah, so the moon's in Aries. That's interesting. So it's a lot of fire going on today. So lots of excitement should be expected on your birthday, especially since like there's that trine between Leo and Aries. That's going to make for a lot of harmony going on and passion and excitement.
When you do a reading for somebody, let's say it's around their birthday, since we have a birthday question, and you're recommending salt salts to them, do you also recommend things for okay, Marty. Do you
Thanks,
also
Marty.
recommend things based on
Love you, buddy.
based on their solar return chart?
To be honest, I don't even really touch on those. Like, I'm not saying it's not relevant. I've just never really gotten into it. I kind of deal with like the basics, you could say, unless
Totally.
the conception. I don't know if you count that as basics, but
Oh, I want to come back to that. Okay.
okay.
How do you calculate the conception chart? 'Cause I've seen it a few different ways.
Mm-hmm. So normally I'll just get a conception calculator. I like yourdue-date.com, and I'll just type in, you know, the estimate. Like some people are like, I was born early, I was born late. Like I was born, I think like a couple weeks late or something like that. So you just get an average. The thing is, it's not going to be 100% accurate because you don't know the exact time someone was conceived. You don't know the exact day they were conceived unless their parents literally wrote it down. So it's a lot of estimates, but you can get a general idea usually. And it's just insane because to me, it feels like Pisces is who I am on the inside, even though Sag is like who I'm playing, you know, because that's my conception sun and my natal sun. But I think if you ignore that side to yourself, you never fully understand yourself. Because for years before I knew about conception astrology, I felt like such a Pisces and I was drawn to Pisces energy and I just couldn't figure it out. And even my gematria backed it up, saying I was Neptune dominant. So there's definitely something to the conception astrology, in my opinion.
How does gematria give you Neptune dominant? I want to know about that.
So I use the Chaldean system, and I think I mentioned this in our last talk. One of my friends, Seth Rakes, really got me into gematria. And you just basically type in your name and you see what the digits reduce to. So for me, it reduced to 7, and that's linked to Neptune.
Okay, hold up, everybody. The Gnostic Academy has said that everyone knows astrology is nonsense, but while giving us $33 in a super chat. So I think everyone should definitely go over to the Gnostic Academy YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and leave comments about why astrology is not nonsense, and try to educate this poor preacher who's stuck in his backwards dogma of fundamentalist Christianity, Gnosticism. All right, so just go subscribe to Gnostic Academy, everybody. Let him know that astrology is great. Thank you. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate you, buddy. That's really kind of you. We got to hang out soon, man. That was a great podcast we just did over on the Interverse side. That was really cool. If people didn't catch that, go check it out. Talking about the tenets of the order. But okay, back to the program. All right, so we brought up transits. I'm just gonna keep. Oh, Kayleigh, you get it. You go for it.
Yeah, I have something to add. So one of the things that I was reading about conception date and conception astrology stuff is in one way of calculating it, they figure out what it is like 9 months back, sure, but then they take the ascendant degree and the moon and they swap them. So this is what they say, like your moon was on your now ascendant degree when you were conceived, and like vice versa. I think that's really interesting. What do you think about that?
I've never heard anything like it, and I'm just trying to think how it could even play in. I'm like, my mind is like, I don't know. It's very interesting, though. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
It's just in some Rosicrucian book, so who knows if it's real or not, but
yeah, I mean, it's like,
it's always fun to read.
no, definitely. I'm always open to theories and very open-minded, and I feel like just to ignore that whole like conception date thing, it's like it goes back to the question, not to get super deep in anything political or whatever, but like, are you human when you're in the womb? And I personally think 100%. Like, people
Yes.
have characteristics in there, and it's like, I just definitely think that's a thing.
Totally.
We are all biophilic here, so
Yeah.
there's no need to skirt around the obvious.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just think somebody's personality, like, boom, that moment of conception, that's the beginning of you. So the sign, like, I was conceived under a Pisces stellium, just to use an example again. I'm loaded with Pisces energy, and I just can't shut it off. So.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be really fun to dig into.
Yeah.
Remind everyone too that when the sperm meets the egg, there is a flash of light.
Yeah.
Come on.
Very
That's
interesting.
so magical.
And I've heard it described in Man's Higher Consciousness, if you guys know that book, something along the lines of like, it's like this unique point of consciousness that is formed. And the filter through which consciousness experiences itself here is astrology. So with that said, of course, conception astrology plays a role.
That is a really great way to describe it. The filter through which consciousness, and I'll add universal omniscient consciousness, filters itself through the astrological specificity of the person's moment of coming into the realm and the moment by moment relationship that every day, every minute, every hour has in reference to them coming into the realm. That is so interesting. And it does seem like really, because they're already here when the sperm meets the egg, in a sense, you know, but
Right.
there's, for whatever reason, a lot of emphasis in astrology on the time and the second that you come out of the womb. That is, it's interesting because you are already here. So I can see why there would be, just like there's your transits of today, they have information for you. Your natal chart, the moment you're born, that has information for you. But I definitely see why there would be information in the conception chart. My dad lets me know every time he gets the chance that that my birthday is exactly 9 months after his birthday. So there's really no question about when my conception chart should fall, period.
Yeah, no, it definitely is 100% a thing. And I think, just to hit on a question I just saw on the side here, like, is it less accurate for babies born prematurely? Like, I think it's accurate, however, I truly do. That's why no matter when you were born, it's still going to play a role.
Yeah, and we're having a baby very soon. We're
Oh, congrats.
32 weeks today.
Oh,
Yeah, so like very soon. And we actually do know the date, the conception date, because
oh,
Jennifer's such an avid journaler, so that's going to be helpful. So maybe we'll look into that with y'all's whenever we get the chance. I'm
I'd
excited
love
for
to.
that. Kayleigh, you got any questions, or should I go into some of the audience questions?
There have been a lot of really good questions in the chat, so I think you should bring them up.
Okay, so Tiffany says if there is a Tiff, aka potato, if there is a particular area you'd like to heal in your life, would you look for that area in houses and take the cell salt associated with it?
Spot on. She's on point. Yes, 100%. That's one way to do it. And then you want to look at the element of the chart ruler and or any planets in it. So let's just take an example. Like, say somebody is struggling with like intimacy and sex, like, or any type of like deep emotional intimacy. That would be the 8th house. So we look at the ruler of the 8th house. We see if any planets in the 8th house are having really tough aspects, or if there's any tough transits going on with them. And then you would take the salts associated with that, as well as support that planet, or even just like the element. Like, say that somebody has like a fire sign on that house. You would get in the sun a lot. You'd work out a lot. You'd engage with other fiery people. Credits to Pathway to Ascension, where I learned this. So yeah.
That was a good question.
Definitely.
Micmac wants to know about death dates as opposed to birth dates in astrology.
Death dates?
Because I mean, if there's nothing really more medical than having an idea of like how or when you might die, so I'm assuming that there's a lot of like hindsight after someone dies that you can look at their chart and be like, oh, well, here was the thing, reflected in the chart. Is that something either of you have explored?
I've never worked with it, but I'm sure it's accurate. Like I've read about it in my books. I've never actually been in a situation where I was required to look at it, but I know that you 100% can look at the illness date and see a lot going on.
I think that it would be unethical for me to tell someone when they're going to die.
Mhm.
I don't think that's for me to predict, and I would avoid that question and ask them why they want to know. But I have looked at charts of the dates and time of when people have passed away, people very close to me as well as for others as well. And I think that that date and moment is very significant when put on top of the chart of whoever's asking that question. 'Cause it's like, okay, yes, so your father passed away, and this is how that astrologically impacted you, and the seeds that it planted for this moment leading up over here in the future, that kind of stuff. So it's super significant, yes. And it is written about a few different ways for how you could calculate that, but I wouldn't do that for a client.
Yeah, same. Excellent answer.
I like the darkness, but not that much, okay?
Well, I'm just
Exactly.
glad that you got some ethics on you. Yeah, and you know, I don't think astrology, as much as it's used that way, I don't think it's all that wise to try to use it for fortune telling. I think it's better to use it for understanding potentials and returning yourself some free will about psychological uh personality traits and things of that nature. What do you think?
Now that you mentioned that, I want to read you guys something. I just pulled it up on my Instagram that speaks kind of to like the reason I started my business, which is like I don't want to be bound by like rules. Maybe that's my Aquarius moon talking, but I like to feel like I can do what I want when I want, and I have power and control over things. So it's kind of loading. So let's hope it does. But it's the idea basically that the degree to which certain elements and aspects in your chart are actually going to be activated depends on your own personal level of gnosis and karma. So I do think there's a point where you are completely unaffected by astrology, if not completely, at least very largely. Like a transit can happen and you're just sailing through and you're unfazed. I think this also depends on the level of cell salts you have in your body. And I want to say your ascension level, but we know it's about balance, not just ascension. I just call it the degree to which you know yourself, if that makes sense. And here's the quote. So Yogananda wrote, in any case, it is not the stars themselves that control the happenings in man's life, but rather his individual karma that, when ripe for fruition, is affected beneficially or adversely by the electromagnetic vibrations of the heavenly bodies.
Really love that quote, and I think that I would want to bring up the Hellenistic perspective here that not every transit is going to affect you because the chart that you were born with was called your natal promise. So there are certain things like I love this discussion of like fate and free will, and I
Yeah.
think that it's always both playing at the same time. There's definitely huge aspects of free will, and there are certain things that are fated, and that's a part of your natal promise. So there are crazy transits that might happen that will not affect you at all because it's not activating anything in your natal promise, and vice versa. So I think that's something always to keep in mind.
That's interesting. So it really is important to consider current transits and if you really want to know how it might shift your potentials, you need to look at it with your natal chart. Can
Definitely.
can you guys learn us a little bit about transits? I brought them on to the chart, today's
Oh,
transits.
yes. Let's take a look. Is there any area of your life that you're interested in looking at specifically?
Hmm. Well, yeah, I'm like I said, about to be a dad. That's pretty
Yeah.
huge.
No,
I
that's
don't know
good.
if there's any transits that are going to talk about that at this exact moment since it's still a couple months off. But maybe you
Yeah.
guys, oh, Kayleigh sees something.
I'm really curious about how the upcoming Mars retrograde in December is going to affect you, considering it rules your fourth house as a traditional ruler and will be going retrograde from your first into your 12th. I think that's going to be really interesting. And actually leads me to a question that I had for you, Dominic, regarding retrogrades in particular. But
Okay. You want to go ahead and ask? I can get to this
yeah.
in a minute.
Hold
So
on. You
Chance,
can't just
back to me.
you can't just tease that. Yeah, talk about me more.
Okay. What do you want to do
Okay,
first?
fourth house. Fourth house is home and family, right? It's like
Fourth house is home and family, yes. So
kind of you can
Mars.
kind of, if you know the zodiac signs, you can kind of get the houses, but it's a little different.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing the most is the Uranian stuff going on because we have Uranus up in your 10th, and that's opposing your 4th as well as conjuncting your 10th. So Uranus is sudden change. And when we look at the 10th, that's kind of like the dad, and the 4th is more like the mom. I see it, even though, the 4th is home and the 10th is more like the public image of the home almost. But having Uranus there just means like a radical like change, like a sudden change to your dadhood. So it makes complete sense. You're having another baby coming in. It's a big change.
Another thing that you could say is that with the eclipses happening on your sun sign, you're taking on a role of more responsibility and becoming a father yourself. And I would actually be really curious to see, like, is your relationship with your dad changing a little bit too? Because the sun is a natural significator for father as well. So the eclipses are like seeds being planted there too. Yeah. There's it's always so fun to see like multiple ways how something can play out. It's cool.
No, exactly. I agree with you.
So what were you saying about Mars retrograding?
Damn it. I was hoping to get away from that. No. So Mars going retrograde, it will turn station in December in Leo, so your first house. Then it'll retrograde back into Cancer, station at 17 degrees of Cancer, and then turn direct and go forward again. So it's a prolonged period of Mars in Cancer. So with it being the ruler of your fourth house, signifying home, and you're about to have a new addition to the home, right? Children's technically fifth house, but we are talking about conditions in the home changing as well. So with the
So
fourth
just off the
house,
top of my head as an amateur,
okay,
what I think you're saying with all of the jargon,
I'm getting
technical
there.
the
I'm getting
technical
there.
jargon. What I think you're saying is if Mars is doing this retrograde action with Cancer, and Mars maybe doesn't love being in Cancer all that much.
Hold up, I'm getting there.
Okay. So I think you're describing what will be like as a new dad, like having, maybe being a bit raggedy with the.
I think it'll be interesting. Raggedy, yeah, for sure. I think that if you feel like you need to step back a little bit to be a little bit more isolated, that's not going to be a bad thing to do. Mars and Cancer, keep in mind, yes, this is considered to be like a debilitated placement, but we are talking about mama bear energy and protective energy, very much so. Mars in Cancer is very protective of the home and protective of the soft things that require nurturing, like babies. So, yeah, I think it'll be a fruitful period spiritually for you as well, because we are talking about the 12th house.
Cool. My baby's gonna have the same Mars and Jupiter in Gemini as me. Maybe not the same degree, but same sign.
I love that.
That'll be cool.
It's crazy how much sharing astrological placements with somebody can make you feel in tune with them. I mean, I see it all the time now.
Okay, Kayleigh, you were gonna go into something else. There's also Pluto retrograde coming up, right?
Isn't Pluto retrograde right now?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It's happening right now.
I have to look. Yeah, it's retrograde. So with the outer planets, a really good rule of thumb is when the sun moves to be trining them, so in the same element, that planet will turn retrograde. So as soon as we got to Gemini season, Pluto's retrograde. That's a really easy way that you can think about it, and then double check it with an ephemeris or a chart. I wanted to ask, so when it comes to transits that you think might be difficult, for example, prolonged Mars in Cancer and then retrograde in Cancer, which is my 7th house. I'm freaking out. I'm not freaking out. Maybe a little bit. But anyway, when we're seeing something like that come up,
Think you're gonna get? Think you're gonna break up with your boyfriend? Have a rough
no,
spot?
no.
Have some fights?
It might get extra spicy, but
Sometimes that conflict can be bonding.
yes, very much so. When you see a big transit like that coming up, do you recommend to clients different cell salts to balance out the house where that transit's going to happen as well?
I definitely think that can be a helpful way to hit on things. Like when you're dealing with any type of tough energies, and when I think tough, I think a lot of times, like, not to come at these energies, but Saturn and Uranus can be tough, okay? And it of course depends on like what is going on heavily in your natal chart as well, like where you're dominant, what might be tough for you to begin with. So I would recommend like taking stuff that deals with Saturn for sure if you're going to have a transit there, both the Saturn sign. No, wait, let me change that. Not the Saturn itself, the sign that Saturn is hitting. So say like Saturn is in, like right now it's in Pisces. Let's say it's squaring someone's Sagittarius sun. They definitely want to stock up on silica in such a case.
And silica is the Sagittarius cell salt?
Yes. And it's funny because they're so insanely correlated. Like Sagittarius has to do with like quartz in the way like of silica, just because like we think of even the name Sag, like Sagitta, like peg, horse. It's like it's so insanely linked, and Sag like has to do with like nagging, and like that word is just, I should really look it up, but for the sake of saving our time, it's just all linked, even like the biochemical energies of what we're dealing with here.
Jenny refined her question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Pluto retrograde enters Capricorn next month, and there's a Uranus retrograde same day. That's
intense.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking sick of Pluto and Cap. That's what I think about that.
It's almost over forever, though.
I know.
This will be the last hurrah.
Pluto's something else, but I gotta say, with my ruling planet being in the sign of Scorpio, I love it. I love intensity. Yeah, horsetail and silica, 100%. I shy away from horsetail because it depletes thiamine, but it's definitely loaded with silica.
I never knew about the silica connection to like horse symbolism. That's interesting.
Yeah, very linked. And I definitely can see it in myself because I have, OCD, perfectionism with shooting the arrow, but also that chaotic wild horse energy. I see it in
even
all
like quartz, horse, similar sounding word. Is it just me?
I hear that. Huh.
I like it. So I think Pluto going back into Capricorn is going to be a lot more impactful if you have something right at the ends of the tropical signs, or the cardinal signs as they're called in modern astrology. I think it'll be much more impactful for you just because it'll be either conjunct or opposite or square or something. We could talk about it like all day long on a global level, but I think we're much more focused on the individual right here with this talk.
Yeah.
So I think for some people it can feel like, I heard a really good analogy actually from Cam White, one of my favorite astrologers that I like to listen to. He talked about how it's going to feel like you've sold a house and you go back to the old house to pack up and finish cleaning that house. And I feel like this last little bloop into Capricorn is going to be like that. Be like, okay, all right, I'm done with this process now. It's time to like clean in the corners and get all of the dust out and finally finish and close that chapter, and then we can move on to the next one.
It's funny you say that because think of like how they abbreviate retrograde as RX. I've heard this before, how it's like RX, like prescription, you know what I mean? Not that we're super into that types, but it's a thing. And in the comments about sand, it's definitely accurate. Like being around sand helps me recharge as a Sag. It's definitely a thing if somebody's silica deficient.
Oh.
There's literally elements for everything. Like if you have a lot of Aquarius, go in the ocean because it's sodium chloride, And Aquarius is definitely an air sign. I know we know that, but just I know that's one that people tend to mix-up's not a water sign.
I love that. Sodium chloride. I think you just actually so my boyfriend has a lot of Taurus placements
Okay.
and Aquarius placements. That's actually where his south node is. So I think you just illuminated why he loves salt so much. He like pours it on everything. I'm like, what are you doing? That he needs it. It's so funny.
No, Aquarian energy craves salt. My sister's an Aquarius and she likes salt too. And for years I craved it because my moon's there. But if you eat enough foods rich in the cell salt, you don't even crave salt anymore, like at all.
Hacks for life. Hacks. I love it.
Silica water. I'm sure it could be a thing. I drink distilled. I do take a bamboo extract right now for silica. And you can always, of course, take the cell salt.
So besides cell salts, what kind of, like, how does a coaching session go with you? You know, because there's a really interesting thread to the whole idea of epiastrology, or the name you give your business, relating to the science of epigenetics, which, if there's any truth to the idea of genetics and hereditary stuff, I think it's more non-physical than physical personally, but I like at least epigenetics for the fact that these things are conditional based on your behavior, your consciousness, your environment, and the expression can change. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Maybe expand on where you're coming from, trying to marry these ideas and how that pertains to people working with you?
For sure. No, I love that you asked. So epigenetics, as we know, is how the expression of genes can alter and change, even though you're not making any physical changes to your genetic structure. So it's the same thing with the stars. We're not able to change the time that we were born unless you super manifest that and shift realities. But like your chart is your chart, right? So the way we can actually shift this and deal with this is, one, just like super consciously ascend, as I mentioned earlier, to where it's like you're just like not even bound by these energies. You're so full of your own energy, cycling it constantly, to where you're exerting more of an influence rather than them. Other than that, it's all the hacks that we're dealing with. So obviously, one is the cell salts. Two, my crystal friends help hugely. I used to sell them, and now I don't feel right selling them anymore. I see them as like my buddies. But working with crystals in general, huge.
Oh yeah, you sent me a nice pouch of crystals that are tuned to my chart, actually.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you know, but I actually I keep them with my tuning forks, and I have specific ones to specific forks, and I'll just let those energies like merge with those specific forks.
I love that. Something I still will do, even though I won't sell the crystals, is I'll give crystal recommendations based off somebody's chart. And it's insanely accurate. Like, let's pretend that somebody has like a moon square Saturn, for example, like you have, Chance, and let's pretend that the moon is in Aquarius. I would recommend to them a garnet 100%, because garnet will warm up that Aquarius moon while also being cubic in nature. So it astrohomeopathically sets off the square. You know what I'm saying? So that's another way I can help people in this way.
That ages my brain in a nice, fun way.
No, doesn't it? Like, I love it.
Yeah, because you just kind of rattled off a bunch of different things at once. The geometry, molecular geometry of the crystal can be something that has a symbolic resonance to the chart geometry. Like a cubic garnet and a square in your chart. That should be, let's elaborate on this a little more.
No, definitely. And I personally believe that there's a different crystal structure for each of like the types of the aspects. So I don't have I do have one right here. I want to just talk about aura quartz for 1 second. People are like, oh, it's man-made, it's not good. This is one of the most powerful crystals I've ever worked with. Like, I don't see it as man-made in the way of some of the others, because what you're actually dealing with here is the bonding of chemical metals to crystal. There's nothing really like fake about it. It's more of just a man-made process. But with that said, when we're working with, like, say, quartz, for example, in general, this is going to have a trigonal structure. Some people also consider it hexagonal. So here we'll be dealing mostly with trines and sextiles in the chart. And if something is a trine or sextile, people generally are like, oh, that's great. And a lot of times it is, but it can also lead to like a tonic, relaxed type conditions where you actually need to strengthen that up a little bit. So that's where something like quartz could come in. And then of course, like the cubic crystals are huge for squares. Oppositions, I like to recommend hexagonal stuff. I mean, it's different for everything, really.
This is so crunchy. We could do a whole episode just on that.
I know.
So when you're selecting crystals for stuff in your natal chart, so you're going to consider like, is this, are you working on like the colors association with chakra energies and then how that pertains to like a zodiac sign? So for example, maybe like if you're dealing with something Sun or Leo based, maybe you want to go in the green spectrum or the yellow spectrum. I know there's probably a lot of subjectivity to this.
Yeah, so I'll usually base it off of both the colors that are associated with this sometimes, just like, you know, the wheel itself, but I'll actually tie in Vedic astrology here a lot of the time and think like, okay, what is the sun linked to? So if somebody's dealing with sun related stuff, ruby, sometimes like I would say gold, pyrite, even like sulfur quartz, there's certain ones with each. And of course, like if it's an aspect that you're trying to deal with, like, again, let's take the example that I used a moment ago, like Saturn squaring the moon. You would want to support the moon in particular because the moon is the body being affected by the more outer celestial body. So Saturn's kind of coming at the moon in that way. We support the moon with something moon-based, like scolecite, rainbow moonstone. But we also look at the sign. There's so many different elements to consider.
I just realized one of the crystals you sent me. It's not a crystal, I guess.
Oh, yes,
minerals.
the elderite.
Elderite, and it's a sweet cube.
I love that. But that's actually monoclinic, triclinic, and trigonal in nature. Very interesting.
I don't remember what. Yeah, I have the email saved. I don't remember what part of my chart this correlated to, but it was really cool that you did that. And I like that you brought up the aura quartz because I also think that those are really cool. There's something beneficial just about a beautiful aesthetic, in my opinion. But I had a kind of similar opinion for a while about man-made versus naturally occurring when it came to stones. But then I came across this piece of opalite, and it was like this blue, this very indigo blue, translucent color. And I had been using, so when I do biofield tunings, I set up a table that's got crystals laid out in the outline of a body, essentially. And I put certain ones for certain chakra centers, and that helps me feel like I'm connecting everything with my intent and all that, and having a body to work on because we're doing it remotely. And I got this cool piece of opalite, totally man-made, 100% synthetic, and I put it in the third eye spot, and instead of a labradorite that I'd been using. And after I did that, I had a whole bunch of sessions that revealed a bunch of new information to me about how the third eye works and what stuck energy in the third eye can represent. And I had a big expansion. Things got way more clear. And I thought that it must have something to do with that stone that I swapped out that's reflective of it at the very least, that the stone's definitely not hurting. And symbolically, the fact that it was like translucent, you could see through it. I thought that was more appropriate for a third eye stone, to be able to see through it and not be opaque the way a labradorite is. And just in general, it totally changed my mind about synthetic man-made crystals versus needing to be purely natural and all that, because I got a lot out of putting that one on the table. It was really cool.
I love that, Chance, especially because opals in general, all the forms are amorphous, which leads me into what I wanted to speak on next. I don't know how familiar everyone here is with moldavite and tektite, but every time I work with tektite, sudden shifts, tears, changes, opportunities, it's so sudden because, in my opinion, it opens up a portal. And it's like, I always say to people, if you aren't ready for like that shift, don't even touch them. But I personally highly recommend it. It's only made my life better.
I used to be crazy. I used to wear a multivite around every day, all the time for like
I would do that
for like a couple of years, and my life just went on this trajectory of constantly changing and constantly shaking up. And eventually, I got to a place where I was like, I kind of like where I'm at. I'm gonna. I put it down. Like it was and with moldavite and the tektite, another thing to keep in mind is they're very absorptive of denser energy, and that can be like negative emotional energy too, and that can be helpful to a point, but then it can kind of hold all that stuff if you're not having some good energetic hygiene with your
Absolutely.
stones.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten my hands on a moldavite, but I have multiple tektites, and I do intend to get a moldavite. It's funny, I see in the chat here how a moldavite disappeared. That is very common. Like, they'll just disappear on people because people say they're actually going into other portals and like they're working behind the scenes in a different reality to help you out. And maybe they're going to somebody else, but the moldavites have a mind of their own, for real.
Yeah, I'll show moldavite to people. It's really weird.
Yeah, I'm going to grab a tektite. One sec.
This is moldavite. Allegedly, it comes from a meteor in just one place in Moldova. Whoa, 18-gram moldavite, $1,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's super cool though.
Yeah, here's a tektite dumbbell.
Oh, nice. Make you big for that. Tektite is a lot like moldavite, but moldavite has that weird green to it.
Yeah, anandalite I've heard of, but I don't know enough about it to speak on it. But yeah, no, these are crazy. And you just mentioned like the whole meteorite thing. I'm sure it's possible. Like, I don't really have an answer on that. I think about it quite often, but I have the belief that the planets aren't even planets. Like, this is a whole other topic, and like we don't need to dive into it, but like I think they're like energy beings.
Oh, I'm in for that.
Yeah. There's Mark Bayersky. I just got to say real quick, he's awesome. I love Mark Bayersky. But anyways, back to this topic. There's a account on Instagram that I feel like really addresses this topic well. It's like Instagram Firmament, something like that. And it makes so much sense because in an electromagnetic universe where the stars and planets are actually electromagnetic light beings and entities, it's going to make sense that like these things would affect us on a vibrational level because it's literally all frequency based. So I'm of the belief that it's sonoluminescence up there, sound creating light, and that's why they sparkle and shine and do all this stuff because it's actually just sound vibrations.
Waters above. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we have any reason to believe that it's a rock in the sky that you could land on. I don't know what it is either, but it is fascinating to see those like zoomed in camera work of stars and stuff and how they have this cymatic, colorful, luminescent vibration going on. It almost looks like light through water. Super cool.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the belief that the earth isn't flat or round, it's a realm, and that's a whole other topic. What does tektite do?
I'm with you, like shape agnostic, but it's definitely the fact that you can do celestial navigation, like using a sextant, that's the one that really cinches it for me because it requires a level, it requires a trigonometry, which means you got to have a triangle, which means you got to have flat sides. If you're going to be able to tell the distance from one place to another using stars as a reference point, trigonometry, baby. And that's the thing. Yeah, you can't do it with a curved base. That's then you wouldn't get an accurate distance. So that is what it is. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Kayleigh, got more questions or things to talk about? I know you probably do.
I also want to know what tektite does.
Oh, yeah. So tektite is, according to Mark, and I trust what Mark says, and I've experienced this too, it absorbs negative energy. So with sucking out everything that's not supposed to be there, it's energetically creating the space for what's supposed to be there. And I think that's one of the top things it does. It also makes room for more what we would call synchronicities, but what are really synchronicities? It's just alignment.
Spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, this is potent. I sleep with that under my pillow every single night.
Nice. I'm excited for the next Interverse, guys. Is going to be with the great David Matheson, who does a lot about star myth. And you astrologers probably are hip to the fact that that mythology is based on astrology, like all mythology. And when we talk about that on like this show, we tend to focus on the Bible or Greek mythology or Roman mythology, that kind of more Western stuff. But in this episode, we go with Matheson. We check out like Aboriginal Australia, African mythology, some of the lesser known myths and stories out there, and how they show up in the stars too. So I think that'll be really fun for people to see that there really is like a worldwide system, that even these obscure Aboriginal tribes are looking at the constellations in a similar way to the mythos that you might be aware of. Like, so that's the monomyth. It's pretty great. So stay tuned for that, everybody. That'll be coming out next week. It's gonna be good. It's already recorded.
That'll be really interesting to watch. Yeah. Other than crystal recommendations and cell salts, I guess maybe you touched on it a little bit about like working with the specific element that needs work, or like the element that the moon is in or whatnot. What other kinds of recommendations are you comfortable giving in a counseling session? Because obviously there's a bunch of stuff that you're not supposed to tell people, but
Yeah, I know. Technically.
skirting specific
So
laws.
for one, definitely like say it's a water-based thing, the person would want to focus on hydration, either more or less, depending on whether it's an excess or a deficiency in water. We kind of tie in like Ayurveda here in Chinese medicine and whatnot, because everything is about the elemental balance with this type of stuff. So say somebody's like really deficient in water in their chart, we would want to definitely make sure that they're drinking enough and also immersing themselves in water. Because it's like, I heard something that was like, why do you get all these good thoughts in the shower? Well, it's because the water, like the water actually is an entity in itself, and it's like an element here, and water helps memory. Like think retention, water retention. Water retains memory is also about retention, you know? So like forgetfulness can even be from a lack in water or in one of the water salts. So there's a lot. So yeah, working with the elements specifically. It also is just about the energies you're hanging around with too, I like to think. So like if you're somebody who's primarily earth-based and you're around a lot of masculine signs all the time, it might do you good to go hang out with somebody who's like a Cancer, or somebody who's a Gemini, not a Gemini, a Virgo. So there's so many different options and ways to address this.
JLo wants to know, which house will labradorite help strengthen? I don't know about on a house level, but it's definitely, in my opinion, going to do a lot with the third eye, which you don't need. Your third eye is off the fucking chain, JLo.
Yeah, I mean,
ridiculous.
Labradorite, I would say with the 12th, but it's completely depends on the signs that you have on each. So I would just say look at where you have Sagittarius. I would also probably recommend Aquarius and Pisces.
Cool. Got a funny meme here from Jennifer. Crystal newbies. Green crystals will help soothe your heart chakra, and then moldavite is like the shining guy.
I love that.
That's about right. Be ready for that. Super funny. Good one.
Yeah, I gotta say, back to the aura quartz just for a minute. Like whenever I'm having a bad mood, or like I just get moody, because again, all that Pisces, I feel the moods. Aura quartz like takes it away instantly. It's actually crazy. Like I consider it the crystal antidepressant.
That's cool.
I think it would be really fun to go through like some of the crystals that we've purchased in the past, just willy-nilly. Maybe not willy-nilly, but like, oh, okay, yeah, like, ooh, green kyanite. It's so pretty and it's my favorite. And then like find out what that actually corresponds to. I think that'd be a really fun
So fun. I love
I'm just
it.
all about selenite.
thing. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. You guys are showing me up. Mine's out there. Yeah, I love selenite. There's apparently like a pretty clear distinction between the different types of selenite. Like the one you guys showed, they actually call it satin spar. Apparently the real selenite is like almost like liquid light.
Ooh.
Kind of crazy.
Is that
So,
a
Dom-
difference in like cellular structure?
I
line
think they're both. I want to say they're both monoclinic, but I could be wrong.
Fair enough.
Everyone rub their crystals, Polymathing says. Okay. Everyone. Good job, everyone. Yeah, they're all over my house. But I wanted to ask you about like my favorite question always for people that do the type of thing that you do is success stories. You know, like
Yeah.
give us a. I know that when you see a lot of clients, it can be kind of hard to remember specifics, but I'm sure there's a few of those success stories that you've told and they kind of stick in your mind. And can you share that with us for sure?
Absolutely. I have a few on my Instagram. I can definitely read them off, or I could just. Would you rather me
Uh,
read them or speak on them?
yeah, speak on them. Tell us in
Okay.
your own words, like how the process has helped people.
So a lot of times I find that people benefit from being seen more than anything. Cause like, of course there's a
Yes.
whole element of like, all right, like I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna give you your cell salts. But feeling like, okay, like you just described my situation, you understand what I'm talking about, like you see it in my soul. That's I feel like what a lot of people take away from it and want to come back and have more sessions because they're actually getting like that understanding and that feeling of being seen and understood. I also try to like actually I shouldn't even say try, it just kind of comes natural. Like I like to be a friend to people. Like I'm not just in this to make money. Like I genuinely want to help people and I enjoy like the puzzle of it. Like okay, you're telling me this, let's find it. Let's see what's going on. Like it's fun to me.
Yeah, that's actually how I describe what I do too. It's like I'm just super into patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
So either I'm doing that on podcasts, like symbolically, linguistically finding patterns and connections, or working one on one with somebody for that exact purpose. But what you said about people being seen, there's definitely a truth to that. Sometimes, maybe Kayleigh could speak on that too, like how it can affect people. Blitzkrieg Bear. Aaron says crystals are for women and sexually confused men. How dare you, sir? How dare you? You need some crystals, sir. They are made by God. They
They're
are
very
wonderful.
powerful.
They're very good. It's super funny. He's kidding everybody. He's not a troll. Don't ban him, mods. He's cool. Anyway, Kayleigh, about like people being seen. You know, I think sometimes there's a benefit for people to just be able to like in one place talk about all like several things at once rather than maybe that coming out just here and there. You know what I mean? To see the
Yeah,
big picture.
I think it's really huge and validating, especially if you're able to reflect back to them a symbol that's right there on the screen in their chart and be like, hey, this is totally this archetype speaking right now. I think it's absolutely huge. Some sessions, like, okay, I like to give homework. I'm not gonna lie. I like to give people a little bit of homework. But some sessions, I think people get even more out of just having the conversation. And like I've definitely spoken with a few people where they just wanted to be able to talk to somebody that didn't think they were freaking crazy about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, do you even want to talk about astrology? Like we can talk about whatever you want. Like I'm here for it. But
Correct.
Mm.
and yeah, like that could be really big for people.
I like to tie in blood type too. I feel like it's insanely relevant to all of this work. And Chance, I know you and I had a conversation before about being Rh negative, and you know I'm half and half, like half positive, half negative, because I'm recessive for negative. And there's definitely something different about it. If I could just speak on that, I feel like it gives you like you're able to see the world like analytically in a sense, but yet you almost feel more like connected to everything and empathic. And I don't know. I just find it relevant in the work I do. And like the blood type, not even just the Rh negative, but like the ABO group. Some people have even theorized that, you know, A is earth, like B I think might have been air, O is water, AB might be fire. I don't know. But I have seen correlations 100%. And just knowing someone's blood type alone helps me help them way deeper.
Sorry, distractions outside the door. I'm glad that this mic doesn't pick up background noise because
Invite him in. Come on
they're
in.
singing some weird shit out there. It's all good.
Nick Mac, how do you find out blood type?
Yeah,
You get a kit.
yeah, you can do the IDON test kit. It's on Amazon, or it might be on your birth certificate or a little card with your birth certificate.
So
Yeah,
you
that's
think that there's
fascinating.
something to the like eating right for your type, food for
With,
the blood types and stuff like that?
without a doubt, this is just my personal view. I know everybody is very different on this. I don't think eating meat is healthy in any situation. So like for O, I know they're like, oh, like go eat meat. I would just say, no, you don't have to eat the meat. Just eat the O foods in general. But with that said, I have seen such a difference when it comes to eating on my blood type.
Cool. I've tried veganism for like a solid 6 years. So I saw some benefit, then I hit a plateau with the benefit. So back to the full spectrum of foods.
Yeah. No,
But
like
each their own. It's cool.
exactly. I don't judge anybody for their food choices.
That's good. Yeah, because that immediately can like make a vibe shift
No,
when
I
people
know.
get militant about that.
Yeah,
I
I think
definitely
like
think there's good reasons to do it, at least temporarily. You can at least try it.
It's just such a personal decision, really.
it's such a challenge to just eat whole, unprocessed, good quality foods to begin with. That's like for me, I'm good with just working on that.
Yeah. No, it can be tough.
Yeah.
Cool guys. Dominique, is there anything like you wanted to make sure we're talking about in this hangout that we haven't gotten to?
I mean, really, I want to speak on like different types of cell salts. I feel like that's important to speak about because
Sure.
you're dealing with, different brands, and like I'm not a promoter of any one specific brand, but I know there are some people who are lactose sensitive. So I just wanted to recommend a few companies that I think are great for people who are lactose sensitive. Because I know like Highlands, for example, is lactose based and they 100% work.
Most
But
of them are. I've
yeah,
seen.
like I tried the lactose ones, not Highlands, it was a different brand, and my stomach was not happy. So if I take them, I always take the ones that are based in sucrose. So I like Jackson's Naturals and I like Homeoforce a lot, both of those two. Homeoforce gives you an option where you can have a custom product made. And this is a lot of the times what I'll choose with clients I work with. So I'll take a look at their chart. Okay, this is what you have going on after like a facial analysis. And then you can put the custom salt in the text box and they make it for you. So I love that.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
so
really cool.
it
Little custom
depends.
mix.
So
Just
that's
simplify
helpful.
it for people. If I can simplify things for myself, I will 100% of the time. If something is really complicated, I know I won't be able to follow it for a long period of time. So I like that a lot.
That's the thing. And some people don't want to have to take all these cell salts every day. So it's like, all right, for somebody who says maybe I don't want to take cell salts, what can I do? For one, definitely spend time under the luminaries and in the sun during that sign season. So, like, again, let's say like the Aries salt, potassium phosphate, get outside like crazy when it's Aries season. And then, of course, there's foods you can eat. There's various cell salt food lists. And I think I touched on this in the beginning, but like try to just maybe minimize your Aries energy for a little instead of being so intense and impatient. Maybe try to do some more grounding, balance things. Oh, that's a great question.
How much cell salts will you get from Himalayan salt or Celtic salt?
I don't recommend it at all. Personally, I don't really like. I'm not going to say there's none in there. I truly don't know, but I don't think we're meant to eat salt. But that's just my personal take.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just cell salts, but not salt.
Exactly. Because you got to remember, too, it's in a different dilution. Like the amounts of them that are in food are like so diluted compared to what you're getting in like a chunk of salt. And the same thing with the cell salts. It's at a 6x potency. Sometimes it's 12x, 30x, whatever. So it's completely different.
Polymathing was subconsciously craving salt from this combo and grabbed the salami. You're so Italian. Okay, Tactical Will wants to ask about. Says, I have Leo stellium in the 9th house, Leo Sun conjunct Mars, Mercury, and Cancer Jupiter. What kind of symptoms could this deficiency bring?
Ooh, potentially muscle spasms and leg cramps, any type of issues related to the heart, possibly, not always, stuff with like neurological, like epileptic type stuff with the magnesium phosphate. I'm trying to think what else here. I mean, with the Cancer Jupiter, that's probably not going to be an issue unless there's something rough hitting it, because Jupiter is generally like pretty easy to deal with. But calcium fluoride issues could be connective tissue, hemorrhoids, forgetfulness, tumors.
Whoa, it's a lot of potentials there.
Yeah.
Probably hard just with that little snippet of a chart too. There's so many relationships going on.
Yeah. I love looking into charts and analyzing.
I want to be selfish and ask about Capricorn, but I don't want to be selfish.
Hey, we got time for it.
So Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon, Uranus and Neptune. Bam, right there in the first house with Mars and Cancer.
Girl, you should take some calcium phosphate.
Yeah.
You also could work with apatite too, because that's calcium phosphate crystallized. So
Taking notes.
yeah, no, definitely. Like Capricorn issues emotionally might manifest as like anxiety and fear around the family specifically. Like you don't really want to leave the home because you feel like you want to make sure they're good. On like a physical level, it could be teeth or bone issues.
I think this is appetite right here.
That is appetite. You are spot on.
Boom. Got
I
it.
just bought
That's
some
beautiful.
appetite, actually.
Oh, you guys are great. I love it.
That's pretty sweet.
That was my most recent one.
You bring up a stone and we're just like, is this your
Bam.
stone?
I love that.
Fucking nerds.
Take that, Blitzkrieg
Yeah,
Bear.
It's funny because I've never had issues with my teeth, like no cavities ever.
Beautiful.
Never. No braces. Nothing.
Wow, that's actually
No
surprising. To
retainers.
be honest.
I don't know how. Like luck, I guess.
What did you say your sun is? Was it Taurus?
Taurus.
Taurus. Okay. So have you ever do you deal with under eye bags? Like typically?
Look, you can't see those.
No, I can't tell.
Okay.
'Cause
dark circles. I don't get bags, just dark circles all the time.
okay, because the reason I asked is Taurus generally, if you're deficient in that salt, you'll have bags under the eyes. Dark circles is Pisces. So I wonder what's going on in Pisces in your chart.
Yeah, I actually don't have anything going on in Pisces. My Jupiter is in the 8th though.
Okay. Huh. Elliot says, I thought Capricorn got good teeth. Depends if Capricorn is doing well in your chart. If it's doing well, your teeth would be great. If it's badly aspected, they could struggle. It all depends.
Totally.
It's so unique, the approach. And let's not forget the whole aspect of manifestation. You know, astrology is what it is, but source knows infinite possibilities. So even if you have something going on in your chart, your subconscious, things will shift and where there is some way where it has to manifest differently. Circles under the eyes, are we talking the bags or, because, okay, there's 3 different ways we can look at this. Bags under the eyes is Taurus. Dark circles right here, just dark colored is Pisces. And if you have a little line here, almost looking like a cubic fold, that's the Cancer salt.
Wow, so that's really specific. I was thinking of it coming at from reflexology.
Ooh.
That there's kind of 3 points that go under the eyes, but it's right under the eyelid is the stomach, and then where kind of the bone hits is more the kidneys.
Wait,
And
that's
then-
actually crazy.
And then below that, where it's on the cheekbone, that's more the liver. So for me, when I get something going on under my eyes, it's right on the top of the bone, kind of in the kidney spot. As I alluded to, kidneys maybe not always being my best
Wow.
thing.
Well, it's funny where you mentioned the stomach because Cancer rules the stomach, and that's linked to cubic folds right here. So that's interesting.
See, the systems
Look at that.
align. Yeah. I mean, reflexology is great. You can find out so much from looking at where blemishes appear on your face, what might be going on with your organ systems.
I wish I could say I knew more about reflexology.
You can know nothing about it and just Google reflexology charts of the face, and there is maybe things aren't always different charts are going to give you different information. So there's that. Like people have different opinions on it, but it's somewhat consistent.
And that's
If
why
you
I wrote. Oh,
you have
sorry.
a sonic slide or tuning fork, you can use that on the points on the face or on the feet, a weighted tuning fork, and stimulate the organs associated with those points without having to, because you can't reach into your torso and touch the organs, but you can do it on the reflexology correlation.
So true. Yeah, that just reminds me I need to use my sonic slider a lot more. It's been a while.
Everybody does. No one uses it enough because there is no enough. It's as much as you can is great, but don't beat yourself up. So what's coming up for you, ladies? We'll start with Kayleigh. Are you back? Like you doing streams weekly? You think you back? Just testing the waters because you were on Monday and it was really fun.
That was
guys.
really fun.
And tell them what you did Monday so they might want to go to your YouTube channel.
Oh, this is true. It was pretty fire. Monday, because it was the full moon, I decided to stream, and it was a little bit impromptu, but that's okay. There was actually a ton of different aspects perfecting at the same time. So it was like, I need to talk about this. So anyway, began just talking about the full moon, squaring Uranus and Jupiter, Saturn square, and blah 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 blah. All this lovely stuff. And then Gabe decided to come on, and he's like, "Hey, here's my birth data."
Slick
And
dissonant.
I always thought he was super private and wouldn't share his data, so I was wrong. And then Chance is like, "If you don't read his chart, I'm unsubscribing." And I was like, "Well, okay." And so I invited.
I meant it too.
Gabriel.
I'm glad you took that threat seriously.
I believe you. So I invited Gabriel on, and we took a quick look at his chart and some of the transits happening, and had a little chat, and it was fun. It was really fun. He has a magical wizard chart. I'm not surprised. With a super strong Mercury, so that was also not surprising in the slightest. Yeah, that was a fun little chat. So it takes about an hour into the stream for Gabe to come on. But if you slog it out, it's the shit.
Kayleigh
It was good
Berkana
talk.
on YouTube.
It was good talk.
But you didn't answer my question about like, are you back into regularly streaming or just when the mood strikes?
So I would very much like to be Saturnian about it and have a schedule. But right now, with how my work is, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I'm back like at least bi-weekly. So like semi-regularly. I also am kind of in the works of, since I got this this nice new laptop that can actually do video rendering and whatnot, I'm in the creation in the background of a bunch of different presentations that I would like to do like a little bit more finely polished videos with later on. So yeah.
Sweet. Speaking of discipline, we might change the Vibe Rant time once I have an infant. 7 p.m. is going to be like, maybe I don't want to make so much noise in the house at that point. Might start a little earlier in the future. So we'll see how that works out. It's really all I think about. It's hard not to bring it up constantly. I'm so excited. And it's a big deal.
Do you know the sex of the baby?
It's a girl. We got a girl.
Oh, yay. Any name ideas yet?
Lots, but we'll let you know.
Good.
I'm not inviting public opinions about my name ideas, our name ideas yet, but we'll let you know. We got to meet her first, right? We have some ideas.
It's going to be a sweet name. Like if any of you have ever talked to Jenny, she's a wordsmith.
Oh yeah, she's the best. All right. So Dom, what's coming up for you, or what do you want to let people know about, or do you have any offers to make to the audience or things of that nature?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually just starting a YouTube channel of my own. I haven't released any videos yet, but the channel is all set up and ready to go. It's posted, so they should be anticipated in the next few weeks, getting started with that. I also have tissue salt facial analyses available again. I had taken them down for a little bit, And now that I have more time, they're back available. I offer.
And what's that? What is that?
That's basically like where I tell you which cell salts you should take if you're, called to take them based on your facial diagnosis. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable sending a face pic, I can just do it off symptoms and chart. But there's two options. There's one that's just that, and then there's one that comes with a coaching call. And then I also offer just, a regular coaching session and also email coaching.
Cool.
I want to.
You can find that at Epiastrology. Yeah, you ladies should trade sessions or something. That'd be fun.
I was just thinking I would love to see what you think of my chart.
That would be fun. Show you the Hellenistic version.
Please, like we can trade. I'd love that.
Yeah, Dom, if you're not following, or D, right? You go by D, right?
Yeah, I go by D.
Yeah, D, if you're not following Kayleigh's YouTube, definitely hit the bell on there so that when she goes live, you can hang out because it's always really fun. It's like the same community that hangs out at these streams.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's good vibes.
Awesome. Yeah. And maybe we can
Dominic, what is your YouTube channel?
I think it's just Epiastrology LLC or Epiastrology, one or the other.
I'll find that and put it in the chat.
Link that shit.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm excited to get the videos out. It's funny, when I was younger, I had like a fake talk show and it's like, it's coming true. That was exciting.
Oh, okay. I'm not finding it in the search, but
let me see. I'll send it.
If you're in our Telegram, you can always let us know there too.
I don't have Telegram right now, or I would.
Get it.
Oh no, I had it before and I got overstimulated.
But better than Instagram.
Probably.
Just you don't need it for anything other than the Interverse group. Just do it. Just that. You'll be good. It's not too busy.
Oh, actually, my mom has it. Now that I think of it, she's in your Interverse Telegram, so I can always hop on there.
I think that's how we even became acquainted.
It is. It sounds. Yep. If you guys don't mind,
hi, Dee's mom.
Oh, she's watching right now, so she.
Oh.
Shout out to moms. We lost her.
We got a little excited, maybe clicked the wrong button. It happens. Happens to the best of us. I think it happened to me last week. I fell out of the stream at the beginning. It's a thing. Yeah.
My headphones are deciding they don't want to work right now, so that's not a good thing. I'm just gonna.
Hey, well, while it's just me and you, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out tonight. In Gabe's stead, I know he does too. All right, good D back.
Got logged out. I'm back.
It happens. It's no biggie.
Okay, but yeah, I just
Now I don't have sound. That's awesome.
Mercury retro. So D, you got any closing thoughts? I think we're gonna wrap, but I see your Instagram handle here. I'll put that in the comments too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's not posting. Really just to tell everybody, and like I think I said this on the last one too, it's just so relevant to me that I feel I need to say it again. You're not like doomed by anything astrological. Like sometimes when you look into it, it can be scary when you see the tough aspects or this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like is that what I'm limited to? Is that my fate? Like it really is all working for your good. Every bit of it, whether it's considered good or bad, even the things for me that have been considered like tough, like squares, oppositions, challenges, I found ways to let them all make me stronger and help my soul to evolve on an even stronger level. So just fear nothing and know that you are source.
Speaking of source, before we go, I do want to honor J-Lo here for her because she's here. And I think she should be here more often. I'm just saying, J-Lo, you should be here more often. Love you. She wants to know your actual birthday so we can find your source card. I don't know if you know about the source cards, which is using playing cards as a divinatory method. Do you know about that?
I think I'm the 4 of clubs, December 14th.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to pull it up because J-Lo asked your permission.
It's funny. She said, let me Uranus you. I relate. Moon in Aquarius conjunct Uranus. I get it.
Yep. You're the 4 of clubs.
Yeah.
Here to play the 4 of clubs. Very cool. What is that about?
I think it makes me like kind of, I haven't looked into it the most. I know I'm like somewhat grounded, but also like a little all over. I don't know. I haven't looked into it the most.
This is 4 of clubs page.
Oh, I'm interested.
It is personal patterns, conviction to say what needs to be said, stand for your principles, persistent and patiently searching for the information you need.
Mm-hmm.
answers at the ready for those who ask. Cool.
Yeah, my human design says my like gifts. The first one is being an ideas person, and it's definitely relevant because I'm always having like 10 different ideas come in my head at once.
Awesome. Yeah, source cards are fun. I don't know if you caught it, but I had the source cards guy. Now I have his book, so
Oh,
maybe we'll have him back on after I catch up and read it. Oh, cool. It actually has all of the cards in this book. Very handy. All right. Kayleigh, you got closing thoughts for us, though, before we wrap?
Astrology is fun. You should get your chart read.
yeah, for real.
Great.
You can learn.
You know what, though? I can't actually say that because I've never had my chart read like the full meal deal. I always just take advantage of the kindness of astrologer friends, and they just give me like bits and pieces. Mostly Kayleigh, completely take advantage of her. So
True.
one of these days, Kayleigh, I'm gonna rectify that.
We'll have to sit down for a real
You haven't
chat.
got a tuning for a while. Let's just trade.
I'm down.
But you have to do it like you've never seen my chart before. Like I'm someone who paid you money, though.
Well, it's been a while since I've looked at it, and I would look at it. Well, okay, other than today. Okay, that's a lie. Never mind. I take that
It's
back.
like,
We just looked at it. Well, I could do that. I could pretend that I hadn't seen it before. Shh, hey, take it down. Get out of here.
Yeah, cool.
Let's see. Do I have any closing thoughts? Medical astrology is
Oh, your mic just cut out.
Oh no. What
No,
the
now
heck
it's good.
is going on? I didn't touch anything. So I don't know. But anyway, medical astrology is fascinating. And if I had the bandwidth right now to go down that speciality, I totally would. I think it's really cool. So yeah, this is a field that I would love to learn more about. So I don't know. I think it's really cool. Dominic, I think you're in a really cool position being in the medical astrology thing. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say on it right now. I think there's so many ways to use astrology for your benefit, and this is definitely one way that is super practical. So it itches my super earth chart. I'm like, yes.
One of many, and
Body.
it's so interesting. And I should mention while I'm on here, yes, I'm big on the medical astrology, but I do offer also relationship readings, general astrology readings, and general health coaching. So
Very cool.
Very cool. Tomorrow's a 4 Clubs day, JLo says. See? She knows stuff. Tomorrow's your day. Watch out for good things tomorrow, Dom.
Ready.
Yeah. And Polymathing says that his reading with Kayleigh was awesome, and he highly recommends it. So I recommend both of you. You guys are both excellent, and I also recommend people get tuned by me. We're not going to use astrology so much, but we're still going to get to the same kind of insights. Big time.
But if you do a tuning and a card reading, there's like quadruple whammies going on of insights from Chance. So I definitely recommend that. Personally, I've had 4 tunings from Chance. The first one corresponded with a really intense healing crisis that was wild. It blew my mind, and I needed additional help after. I'm like, this is happening. What do I do?
I wasn't even that good at it back then. I was like, compared to now, I'm like way better now.
It was wild. But yeah, every time a different thing comes up, yet it's all connected. And it definitely, if you haven't had a tuning by chance, I say go do it. And then get a medical astrology reading so you can learn some cell salt stuff.
I don't
from you.
I don't advertise it as much, but I do tarot readings for people too. That's something you can buy on my website. And the last one I did, I was working with somebody who, in our tunings together, we'd worked on issues pertaining to the heart. And in that tarot reading, I think there were three out of the, 7 or 8 cards were directly related to the heart. I was like, see, it's the hot hands. I got like the 3 of Swords and the strength card and a card from an oracle deck for cacao, which is heart medicine. It was great. And I do I Ching too. Those are good times.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's another thing people can do with me if you don't want to dive straight into a tuning. Those readings can be super fun and very deep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say human design is important too. It ties in with astrology.
Yep, many paths to the knowledge of self. All right, I think that we're there, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up for the night. Close up shop. Stay tuned for good stuff. Dylan and I are recording an Inner World episode tomorrow, so that's going to be coming soon. I've been doing lots of all day was researching for that, and yesterday preparing my thoughts. So you're subscribed to the Patreon, you'll get it when it comes out. Ladies, thank you for joining me tonight. And thank you everyone for hanging out in the chat. You guys have been wonderful. As always, the best chat on the internet. And no trolls, no negative vibes, all good. We love you. See you next time.
Love you guys. Bye.